ask, why do you do these, events? What's this all about? Everyone wants to know. We attended dozens, like I think a lot of everyone in the room, dozens of conferences, summits, all these different types of events, and we said there's not really one that's focused on experts sharing their real life experiences, real world applications. Just tell me, what it is that where can I apply these technologies? What am I going to face? The risk in adopting these technologies. What am I going to face? I want to know what's going to happen. In my job to be done in the real world. So, we wanted to put together these events to do just that. And so we have this wonderful, repurposed facility here. You might have noticed the 1895. I'm a former historian, so I kind of love to study the history of these places. In fact, people were slaving away in here. It was hot. It was 120 degrees in this place. So, we owe the dedication of the people that worked in this building, built this building. We're now in the digital era, and just love these buildings that are getting renovated and repurposed for what we're doing here. So it's a little hot out there. At least we went straight from 50 to 90. There's no spring. It's winter direct to summer. So glad everyone made it out. Hopefully it wasn't too hot getting here. So I would just like to introduce Aditya Tallapragada. He's president of AKT Health. He's going to talk a couple minutes about what AKT Health is about, and again why we're doing these events. So Addy, please.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming here. It's a great pleasure to be here every time. AKT Health was started in 2017. We started first in Tokyo, Japan, and then for the last 7 years we have been operating mostly in the medical affairs and commercial strategy sector. But then slowly we also started build our own CRO in India, and then we did a lot of projects on the data side, data analytics, and then technology space. But then we started to see a lot of influx of projects that were coming from US, and then we decided to move our operations, or start the operations, not move, in US. And then it's been less than a year that we started. And when we came to US, we already had the experience working in the APAC, and then we already have experience working with US companies. But after the COVID, we are not sure what business models exactly work, and then how we can actually learn, and what's the best way to learn is, actually bring in the community, learn from the community, and then see, and then take a lot of help, because right now we see a lot of our clients are looking for services that we cannot offer. Especially we cannot do site management in US, and then we don't have access to any of the sites there. We are not really equipped with all the regulations that we need to work on the US space. So, building this community is actually teaching us a lot in how we can actually frame our company and how we can actually help the community. We are looking to rapidly expand in US, and we will be hiring a lot of people, and then we will be actually partnering, looking for a lot of partnerships as well. And then we look forward to your conversations, and if there is anything you want us to help or you want us to get involved, please feel free to contact me or Rashmi or David, anyone. Thank you, that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Addy. Being very, very modest, you built this company up 7-8 years ago from just a couple people to 45 team members in now 9 countries, over 100 projects. So, really appreciate all the work that he's done. So, I'd like to move forward, introduce Mr. Tuan Nguyen, who is the co-founder and CEO, together with the former governor of Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis, of the Boston Global Forum and AIWS. We had the honor and pleasure of working together for some time, and we've formed an official strategic partnership. We're great friends, and Tuan will just come up and talk here for a couple minutes and tell a little bit about what BGF is about, AIWS, and about this this strategic partnership. So please, Tuan.
Very pleasure to join David and college to the partner the panel. And Boston Global Forum, we are as David introduced already, and we have Kelsey, we focus on AI politics and society, and we have the AI society initiative 6 years ago, and we try to create new model, new democracy with AI. And we do very much in AI governance, AI policy with government, especially with the US, with the European Commission, with India and Japan for years. Today we are, yes, we are thinking about not only concept and principle more, we think about action, practice, and AI. 7 years ago, we talked and we do very early about governance and new model for democracy. So many people think, oh, too early, and maybe fly in the sky. So but now everywhere. So today we are very pleasant to meet with you, and maybe we are practice and DCTs is a very, very important strategy, vision, and ideas for evolution and ideally future revolution in AI with healthcare, public health, and AI for society. We recognize is one very good strategy and excellent solution for society, AI for society. So we are immediately partner and support and join together a long time with initiative, and we are very honored to be here with you. Thank you so much, and we think it's great panel discussion. And also, as great idea we can pick here for Boston Global Forum and AI for Society is quickly investor. And we hope and look forward your contribution and join us in AI for Society initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tuan. Also being very modest, they've been working on this for 12 years, bringing consistently top leaders from around the world, prime ministers. We had White House officials at Harvard Kennedy School, Harvard Faculty Club, Harvard Medical School, top professors in AI from MIT, Stanford, Harvard, and so really appreciate all of the work that you've done, Tuan. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on with no further ado to our keynote speaker, Adriano Garcez. He is director of ZS Boston. He has 15 years experience in healthcare and medical devices, expertise in evidence generation, business transformation, and market access. He's led programs for top pharma and medical device companies. He's navigated FDA submissions for software as medical device, SAMD, holds a biotech engineering degree, an MBA, and advanced studies in public health and IT leadership. Adriano, please.
Okay, hello everyone. After this introduction, I don't think there's a lot more to say, but I would like to talk a little bit about ZS and what ZS does. So it's a global healthcare professional services company that supports life sciences companies from R&D to commercial. And my team is the evidence generation, integrated evidence generation team that works with life sciences companies across clinical, medical, integrated evidence, and market access, so value and access. And so what we really help life sciences companies with is understanding what type of evidence best serves their regulatory use cases, their market access use cases, their usability use cases. And so by engaging with them very early and looking at the product, whether it is a drug product or a pharmacological product or a device product, we help them understand what that journey needs to look like, always focusing on adoption and commercial success. And I want to thank the organization committee for having me here today. So the invite was to talk about innovation in clinical trials and give you a glimpse of the type of work that we do and the different types of data that we are bringing to these novel study designs for novel use cases, given where the market is in terms of access to patient data, real-world data, and also the acceptability of certain types of designs by the FDA as well, that before were very focused on real-world evidence studies, where real-world data was just introduced very late in the product life cycle, but now we are bringing that way earlier in the life cycle of the product. So before I start and say something about this image, you're already starting to probably identify with some of the challenges when it comes to building or bringing to market a successful product, right? We all have the core mission of bringing a product to market that solves the right problems for the patients, that integrates with clinical workflow, that adds to clinical workflow. And we all, and let me just ask, who here is involved in research of any type? Okay? So who here has been involved in designing clinical trials or has been involved or participated in a clinical trial? Okay. How many of you have found challenges in understanding what type of data is really necessary for regulatory clearance, for market access, or to build a robust value story to drive physician adoption? Okay, so we have a lot in common, and we all come at it from many angles. And the challenge is that the product has all these layers, but inside the company, people come at it in isolation. So where millions and millions are spent in some lines of research for that product, they don't tell the full story, right? So we either focus on commercial data only, or we focus on clinical data, demonstrating safety and efficacy. The others are looking for economic or impact of the solution on healthcare utilization metrics to get into pricing discussions with payers. But the problem is when you invest all this money, all these different remits across the organization, and all combined, they will never lead to a real product that impacts health outcomes and that can support a sustainable business model, right? So that's where I'm going to talk about different ways that the market is addressing that and where the market is moving in terms of having a broader vision on patient-related data and modalities of clinical trials to serve that purpose, right? To bring data from multiple sources that describe a more comprehensive value story, a holistic value story. So here I'd like just to orient you to this topic of centralized evidence generation, and we'll talk a little bit about how the market is tracking on decentralized clinical trials specifically. But here the idea is that we've been working with the top 50 pharmas, and we are very close to where they are in terms of utilization of these modalities. And the traditional model of clinical trials, very site-based, very limited in the type of data that we can collect, doesn't serve today's need for telling a more comprehensive story about the product across all the stakeholders to serve those different use cases. So while we see large investments in decentralized clinical trials, we are not seeing fully virtual trials. So there are some elements that will still be very site-based, but the beauty of it is with today's technology and the ability to source different data elements from different sources and the ability to link all that data to one patient string, that possibility allows us to design studies that are custom to the therapeutic area, that are custom to the product, and that's the mentality that we are carrying here. We don't want everything to be decentralized. Each product and each research objective will have its variation, and what we're seeing is 80%, 90% is still hybrid. In the last 5 years, my team only ran one fully virtual study that where the enrollment of patients were fully virtual. They didn't go to the site. The data collection was fully virtual, and patient-reported and system-level data from claims data and EHR data. But that's not the norm, right? That's the exception still. And then think about the non-digital and the digital aspect of it, because from a data standpoint, there's still always a non-digital element around what it is collected in terms of evidence, and then on the digital side, there's what we are seeing is the novel way to collect data, for instance, with wearables, right? We are adding digital biomarkers as a way to assess the impact or the efficacy of a drug in using this drug device combination modality. There are many other aspects of digital that, again, from a study design standpoint, are very custom to what you are trying to demonstrate as part of the study. And another point is pre-COVID and post-COVID. So pre-COVID, we saw that pharma and life sciences were experimenting with these more decentralized modalities and taking some risks. As we hit COVID, as COVID hit, we saw there was a justification to decentralize more the design of these studies and the collection of this data. And we saw that even post-COVID, there was a little drop, but what life sciences companies that are and manufacturers that were designing these studies understood is that now they learned through outsourced capability during COVID, but now the success of those studies, the ability to continue research throughout COVID, justified the investments in more decentralized modalities, partnerships with data providers, data brokers, as well as back-end technologies from an infrastructure standpoint that are part of their organic growth. So bringing and scaling this type of innovation, this type of infrastructure, this type of partnerships from the inside, right? Adjusting their SOPs, adjusting the way they organize internally, and to invest internally instead of outsourcing all these services. And here this is specific to decentralized studies and clinical trials. Just another point to drive that we saw, on clinicaltrials.gov, it was easy to identify the number of decentralized clinical trials, and this was mostly hybrid trials. And you see there's a significant growth, and in 2020, that spike due to COVID happened, and then after that there was a little drop, but I just recently looked at the last 2 years numbers, and the growth is corrected. So there are even more decentralized clinical trials on clinicaltrials.gov today than there were in 2021. Then what we are seeing is, as well, real-world data is here to stay, and there are more sources of data. We see a tremendous growth in life sciences and pharma, utilizing this type of data very early on in research. Streamlined access to EHR data, mobile data, social media, claims data, from early discovery, phase 1, phase 2, not only phase 4. Investments in an ecosystem of data to enable this always-on data access. That is where we're seeing major investments, is in getting that infrastructure, getting access to the data through partnerships, and being able to have that longitudinal data capture and patient view for the different studies. Budgets are changing. We see large amounts of investment going towards data acquisition, infrastructure, analytics at scale, and this always-on type of architecture to access to patient data. And one other point is that the research ecosystem has completely changed the way we see it. A few years ago, it was very myopic. It was very, what is the data type that I need for my clinical study? Now it's, what are the multiple use cases that I can justify for this study? And then these different use cases, throughout the drug life cycle or the product life cycle, we see a couple of key use cases. So we see a clear phase pre-launch, where whether it's a pharmacological product or a device, where the different teams are coming together to have this comprehensive integrated evidence plan, and to fully understand the patient journey and where their product plays a role. Early data access to understand how they can better target and personalize their technology or their drug to the patient. And then there's access to real-world data is really informing where these patients are, looking at the patients for multiple dimensions, so understanding what's the distribution of patients across the target geographies, quickly being able to apply AI on that data, and quickly optimize the protocols for feasibility, so we can get with a high degree of assurance that these patients will be available, that will collect data on what might work for the patient, what might not work, and it's very easy then to go to the sites with all this information and try to further assess the feasibility and the ability to enroll the right patients, right? And then pre-launch as well, and working with product manufacturers and drug manufacturers. It's utilizing this data to really generate those value stories, right? So there's a value story for prescribers, there's a value story for patients, there's a value story for payers. And so at this stage, as you design these early pre-launch studies, right, and we are calling it early stage pragmatic real-world evidence studies. Those are very informative to build those value stories that then the field teams can go and relay to the HCPs on why they should prescribe the product, how well does it integrate into their clinical workflow, and what is the added impact that it can have on their patient outcomes. During the launch phase as well, as we have the, right after the product is in the market, this always-on architecture is very important. So if the pipes to the data are there, we can look at how the product is performing, what are the patients saying about the product, how are the HCPs utilizing it in the context of their clinical workflow. And so those iterations on the product and adjustments on the experience can be done on the fly. And then I'll jump here to this element of differentiation. So right after the product has been a while in the market, I think you can start seeing that longitudinal data and that with that always-on architecture, where you have data coming from the clinical sites, when you have the clinician-reported outcomes, the patient-reported outcomes, when you have the claims data coming in, you can really start seeing how your product is impacting care, and you can call on those learnings to get in front of payers iteratively to renovate your value story for pricing negotiations. Here's just a point that I made before, that there's, as we look at evidence, what evidence do we need? How should we design the different studies? What value messages can we create? We need to think about the key functions around the product. So medical will have their own preferred channels, their own preferred messages, marketing as well, marketing access as well. So it's really thinking about this holistically and identify what are the value messages that are required for the different groups, and build the strategy plan and the studies from there. So here, wanted to make a point on, it's not about can we do it, is the data there, there's so much data that now professionals are having challenges in understanding what is the right data, right? What is the right data? Is the data complete? Does it have enough quality? So we spend significant time with our clients to peruse that data, to build that data model, and to look into the completeness of the data, and the completeness of the data, the volume of the data, the longitudinality of the data. So that's where the help is needed. Is not, is the data there? Is the data sufficiently good? Getting into the right type of data, or the data that we are utilizing the most in our trials, in our designs. As you can see, orienting you here to the right side. So more and more we are trying to find use cases where social determinants of health, and we'll have a panelist that might gives us shed some light on how that type of data can impact that value story around the product. Obviously, clinical and economic data is more, standard and traditional types of data. But what differs here is on the medical records. Now you can have access to EHR data, claims data, and pharmacy data without going through the sites. That's the real advantage of where we are today, and the direct access that we have to that kind of data. Obviously, genetic data, has been around for a while. Early discovery, phase ones, that being put together comprehensively with the other data types. Then sensors, we work a lot with sensors and with complementary data to see what's the impact of the, for instance, the pharmacological therapy on certain biomarkers. Like we'll have Tony today talking about prescription digital therapeutics that can be a standalone treatment independent of the drug, or can be a adjacent treatment or complementary treatment to the drug. And there are other elements that are coming into research into these designs to paint a better picture of the patient. Just a fun fact, who knows here how much is 1 zettabyte of data? 1 zettabyte. So I think it's zetta, exa, and then it's tera. I think everyone knows terabytes. It's 1 billion terabytes of health data that are generated annually. So, and this is more data than financial services, manufacturing, and media industries together. So we have enough data. It's just to come up with those use cases and having the right access to the data, and we can change how research is done and the potential value it can generate from it. So, the key message here is that the market completely shifted as we are seeing it. Large investments in access to data, in analytics to process all that data, going from just clinical or just economic data or just real-world data studies to a more comprehensive type of studies, and very, very early on in the product life cycle. And obviously, none of this can be done with the right backend. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the complexity that it takes to bring all this data together in a compliant way, meeting all the quality standards. So as you see, orienting you to the source systems. This data, as I mentioned briefly, can come from electronic data capture systems, labs, directly from the sites, clinical trial management systems, from claims, and then they have to come into this backend where the data is normalized, the data is linked, it has to be segregated, clinical data versus non-clinical data, what is raw, what is processed. And then it has to have, version control in a way that can be auditable, and that data lineage can be traceable. So we have to document every single piece of data and transformation that the data goes through. And for any submission, then if there's an audit, they can trace back what the transformations that were done to the data from inception. And then this layer also a lot of movement in what the AI and analytics is able to enable, right? So there's way more data. There specific dedicated AI agents that are developed to for the different analytical purposes, right? But what we are seeing is that life sciences wants to be able to query the data, right? Bring one other big investment that we are seeing is harmonizing all clinical trials data from all clinical trials that are being conducted, being able to link that data from patients that have participated in different trials, different years, and being able to query that data in a self-service mode, being able then to assess opportunities for follow-up research, or other opportunities for creating new value stories and potential label expansions on the product. So last slide here. What we see in terms of big transformations when it comes to evidence and as it relates to pharmacological and non-pharmacological products. So we see life sciences and manufacturers going from promoting products and more focusing, leveraging all this data to impact and creating new care experiences for patients, right? Across HCP, payers, providers, all that global story being very well aligned, and defining opportunities for the product to touch more across more points, more touch points across the full care experience. Then it's not about just this individual insertion of the product in one moment that matters in the journey. It's more about how does it impact the full patient care journey. Then, looking, if you see the way that products are described today or are positioned today, normally there's a segmentation of patients, patient types, patient personas, HCP types, HCP personas. But with the data and capabilities, analytical capabilities of AI today, you have an opportunity to personalize to the individual level. So now is how do you make your product flexible enough to be able to absorb this, near to real-time insights that you're having on how your product could be a better product for your patient. Moving from just having this data to inform the business to automating this insight and having on-tap insights with recommendations, clear recommendations, or when it can drive actions for product adoption, product improvements, and further innovation. So that's it. I hope this was insightful. Thank you so much.